Session under exemption 3 to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining, specifically for full-time police, full-time fire, and call firefighters association, since an opening meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares. And we will not return to public session at the conclusion of that executive session. So now we'll enter the open session and we'll discuss item number 1, which is open meeting law complaint acknowledgement. The town clerk received an open meeting law complaint from Miss Kim Sherwood dated November 27th, 2017, and received on November 27th, 2017, concerning an alleged violation. Oh, it was dated November 27th, and we received it on November, yeah, concerning an alleged violation of the open meeting law. The board must formally acknowledge receipt of Ms. Sherwood's complaint and briefly summarize the summary of her complaint. The board should discuss a position on the application of the open meeting law to the town administrator's financial policies working group. The town council has prepared a draft response to Ms. Sherwood's open meeting complaint. The board should discuss whether we feel the town council has adequately summarized the board's position and entertain whether any changes should be made. I move that the board vote to adopt the draft response to Ms. Sherwood's open meeting law complaint as prepared by town council, and authorize town council to send the response on its behalf.
Second.
Any discussion? Yes, John.
I just wanted to confirm something, because the response that you provided, Kelly, I'm just fact checking here. On the first page of Ms. Sherwood's complaint form, it says Collins Center Working Group, a subcommittee of the Board of Selectmen. It would sound to me, based upon your response, that that is not in fact true.
That's correct.
It is not a subcommittee of the Board of Selectmen.
Correct, that's my position.
Okay.
In fact, there is no body at all entitled the Collins Center Working Group.
Did the Board of Selectmen have anything to do with appointing members to that?
No.
Okay. That's my question, because I questioned whether that was accurate, and you've answered my question.
Yes, thank you.
The night we discussed that, John, I made a statement at a Board of Selectmen's meeting on camera that I would designate Kelly Hebert to appoint that board.
Fine, but the Board of Selectmen didn't make that choice.
We did
It was
not.
not a subcommittee of the
We
Board
did
of
not.
Selectmen. I'm just trying to get clear on that.
That's correct.
We did
Seemingly
not.
minor but relevant
We
point.
could discuss that a little bit further, maybe.
Mhm.
That the board took a vote on that and voted, you made the motion to have the town administrator form the committee. So the Board of Selectmen actually took action on its creation and voted on it, not just as a consensus, but actually voted on it. I mean, that's what the tape shows.
Okay.
And I
You've
think that's
got
what the
tape,
minutes
I
show
don't.
also.
But I guess the question is, it's not a public body under the definition of open meeting law. That's the question. It doesn't seem it, from what I hear.
My interpretation of that was to really allow the board to sort of punctuate what was the presentation of the Collins Center when they presented the draft comprehensive policies, financial policies for the town. They presented that to both the joint meeting of the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen. They made a presentation simply to be proactive and to allow the Board of Selectmen to make a indication of its direction to me as town administrator as to the next steps. I saw that vote as merely a consensus that, okay, we've received it, we accept it, now where do we go from here? So I had made the suggestion, well, you know, I could certainly appoint, you know, have a group come together under my authority as the town administrator, to look at the document and make appropriate revisions, not necessarily collectively to the policies, but really the document itself, provide some editing, some updates, because we understood that this document was a product, a work product of the Collins Center, that it represented best practices from across all of Massachusetts, that in many cases there were some blanket statements that might be great for a bigger community, maybe not for Topsfield, and that we needed the opportunity, or the board needed the opportunity to have someone, and as your appointment, I thought, and it has been in my purview and in my responsibility to make recommendations and to submit them to you for further discussion, that it was my responsibility as Chief Financial Officer of the town, as delegated from the Board of Selectmen to me when I was hired, that I would be able to take this document, rather than to independently look at it and make any changes that I thought were appropriate to make it Topsfield's document. So to take it from a draft from the Collins Center Consulting to make it a Topsfield document that could then be discussed and sort of, you know, put our ownership into it. I took your directive from that meeting to say, okay, we've received it, it's an acknowledgement that we received it, now what's the next step? And as town administrator, I accepted the responsibility of taking it to the next step. Rather than to do it independently, I had considered that having involvement of members of my team, and also having some input and suggested feedback from member, of course, Selectman Mark Lyons. I asked him to participate in the 3 meetings we held. And I also thought that it was helpful that as the Finance Committee is responsible for reviewing budget requests and compiling a budget recommendation in motion for the floor of town meeting, that it might be appropriate. And also, they also have their own outstanding or existing policies, financial policies. So I thought it would be in the best interest of everyone to involve them in this effort and to allow them the opportunity to meet with me so that they can give me some feedback and suggestions that I would be able to contemplate for the revision.
Can I stop you there? Because, first of all, I got the definition of public body here, which I'm going to read the relevant part of, and it's the fact it was to advise you.
Yes.
And as it says, the open meeting applies to public bodies and so on. It says, however, the law specifically, and I will not read them all, excludes the following things from the definition of a public body. And the third says, boards appointed by particular government officers solely to advise the officer. That would seem to be the indicative sentence in question.
Let me go just a little bit further, and not to play lawyer, but I'm just really working from our attorney's, I think, very capable defense. And there are a number of key points, but one of them relies on what's called the Conley case, which is the Conley versus the School Committee of Hanover, and it sets up a test. And that may be what you just really cited, and I'll just repeat it. And probably the court held, and I'm reading from a decision of the Attorney General. The court held that where an individual public official creates a committee to advise that person on a decision that he has the sole authority to make, the committee is not subject to open meeting law. That's essentially what you just said. But then they establish a 3-prong test, and it's in all of the 3, not one of the 3 or 2 of the 3. And so if one of the 3 doesn't apply, then you don't meet the test. And the second prong of that is that the entity must be a body empowered to act collectively. So that's a test in addition to what you've already talked about. And I don't feel that at all was the case. Clearly, the record shows I was one of the people. I think I missed one of the meetings, but I think I was at 2.
Yeah.
And in my viewpoint, it was really, editorial. It was organizing. It was seeing how we could use language so that it looked like they were all from one town. It just was on that, for lack of a better word, ministerial, administrative.
If Kelly had appointed a board to advise us, that would be different. That would be a public body. If appointing a board or a group or a committee or whatever you choose to call it to advise you as our paid and appointed town administrator, that seems to fall within the exclusion clause of this part of MGL and OML.
There's no exclusive power on the part of the town administrator that requires this. As, for example, in the case of the superintendent had statutory responsibility. Taking this at a little bit of a higher level though, the town is on the radar for open meeting violations. There appears to be some not clear cut, if you would, explanations of this particular one. I personally feel that we voted for something. We were the one who voted to have the committee. This is not just an advisory committee initiated by the town administrator, whatever, to get some ideas about something. It's a functioning body, specific people, not ad hoc in any way, financial people, representatives, Board of Selectmen, finance, accounting, treasurer. So I really believe that this most probably falls under the open meeting law. And that the town of Topsfield does not need to be, again, on the radar of open meeting violations. I see no reason why we couldn't open this up. I mean, is there some secret about it in any way? No.
We've
Well,
already
I
done
think-
this. We've already
I think-
done, that- I wanna be real,
just-
no,
I think
that's already been done. And Kelly immediately offered to do that, and immediately offered to write up summaries of the meetings that had already occurred. But that wasn't a sufficient reply, so a complaint was filed. Let's not rewrite history. We can disagree on the application of the law to that, but that was opened up. There's nothing remotely secretive about it, and essentially the function's done. So this is I won't editorialize myself.
Well,
But I don't want that to be lost.
Even to imply that it's secret irritates me. Because there's nothing that we do here that's secretive. And we're being accused of that every time we turn around. And I'm, quite frankly, getting sick of it.
There's a motion and a second on the floor.
Any other discussion?
And so this is the motion to submit the letter as written by
Town council.
KP Law.
Yeah.
So I do feel uncomfortable about it. I think, okay, I'll leave it at that.
And I would just make one other comment or question to the town administrator. Would it be appropriate to include the fact that we're following our council's advice? Or is that not necessary on this response?
Oh, that response is,
That's what.
It's-
This is after the fact,
This
right?
is the next
Right.
step. This is
It's the
Did
letter.
I missed that whole thing?
This is the letter.
the letter is drafted.
Okay.
It's from, oh, I'm sorry, I picked up the wrong.
That was
document.
finalized.
This is the response.
Right.
This is the response. Okay, no, that's fine. If this is the response, I hear you on that one. I'm okay with that. Yeah, thank you.
And that is written by Tobelman and Page, so it's
And
very
I see
clear.
it's
In other words, my point would be this: if there's certainly enough discussion about it, and we're already on the radar, and you're on the fence one way or the other, you have to pick it. I would say we go ahead and say, yes, it is an open meeting body, and yep, we're going to do that. That would be my take, but I'll leave it at that.
There's a motion and a second on the floor.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
The negative.
Have a roll call vote to enter into closed session to meet in executive session under exemption 3 to discuss strategy with respect to,
I don't know.
it may be a strategy. Respect to collective bargaining specific for full-time police, full-time fire, and call firefighters association, since an opening meeting may have a differing effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body and the chair so declares.
Second.
Roll call vote, roll call vote.
Fine.
Aye.
All right.
Would make a comment that we have the, well, I'll leave it to, item one, it was.
We're in executive session now.
No, I thought there was an item two. I must have an old.
Yeah, no, that got taken
Oh.
off.
It got
Okay.
changed.
Ah, sorry,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Great.
Sorry
Thanks.
about that.
No, I-
sorry.
all right.
I'll be around tomorrow.